Hello, improvers. Justin Winstead, the Improver Coach, coming to you. And I've got something that's been on my head and heart for weeks now, and I can't wait to share it with you. Here's what I want to talk to you about today. And I'm going to take some thunder from my friend, Dr. Zoe Shaw, who recently spoke at our Improver Summit. And this was the intro to this particular part of her talk. She talked about dysfunctional relationship behaviors, specifically that are costing you business, that are costing you influence, income, and impact. So she had a whole list of these. But there was one in particular that she said is the biggest mistake we make in relationships. Wouldn't you want to know the biggest mistake that's costing you in your relationships? All right, get ready. Here it is. According to Dr. Zoe Shaw, she says the biggest mistake we make in relationships is expecting others to show up in a way that they aren't. You know, I saw a meme on social media a little while back, and it really said it in a slightly different way, but it's the same sentiment in it. Stop expecting you from others. Now, what are these two quotes talking about? What is the heart behind this? What does it mean? We need to be careful about what we expect of others, because when we adjust our expectations of others, we are setting ourselves up for potential failure, for disappointment, and just to overall be unhappy with the results. So one, this is about managing our own expectations in general, but more specifically, there are two mistakes that we make in this game of our expectations with others. So first off, one of the mistakes, like Dr. Zoe mentioned, was expecting others to show up in a way that's just not who they are. So this is a personality thing. This is a makeup of who they are as an individual and what they bring to the table, what makes them. Sometimes talk about this in terms of being like introverted or extroverted, but it goes much deeper than that. It's got to do with how do they work? How are they wired? What is their voice that they bring to the conversation? What are their competencies and their geniuses? Whenever we expect people to show up in a way that's not who they really are, it creates a situation that, yes, it's sometimes we can cause them to get out of their comfort zone and to grow into something better. But more times than not, all we're doing is setting up a situation where we're going to be frustrated. We're going to be disappointed. They're going to feel like they've let us down. They're going to feel like no matter what they do, it's not good enough, because no matter how hard they try, they can't meet those expectations. So let me give you an example of this so that you can see what I'm talking about. One of the things that we train on here is called the 5 voices. And these are leadership voices that we bring to the conversation, and we all have a mix of these leadership voices. Well, I'm a pioneer voice, so I love the future. I love results. I love taking a goal, a vision, reverse engineering it, and doing whatever I need to do to help that vision come to fruition, to make it reality. So things like failure and setbacks and rejection, those are just steps along the way to get to that ultimate prize. That is the mindset of a pioneer. Sounds good, right? Well, not to some of you, because some of you out there, you are nurturers. And for you, you don't really think so much about the future. You're thinking about the present. You're thinking of the here and the now. And things that you prioritize, as an example, would be relational harmony over the eventual results. So when you come into a situation, you really would prioritize keeping the peace and maintaining the initial unity over what the long-term goals might be, because the present and the feelings in that moment and the relationships matter most. And so let's bring this back to our topic of relationship challenges. As a pioneer, if I'm expecting nurturers to think the same way I do, that's an unfair expectation on them, because that's not how they're made and that's not how they think. And likewise, if the nurturers want me to think more like they do, that can be a challenge as well, because we're just wired differently. And thank goodness that we are. We need to think and approach things in a different way. And both of these voices are on opposite ends of the spectrum, but they're really important. By the way, if you want to know more about the 5 voices, you can go take the free assessment on our website at improvergroup.com. Click Take Free Assessment and discover which one of the 5 voices you are. Share that assessment with a spouse, a family member, a friend, and find their voices so that you can calibrate your expectations and know who they are and what they're bringing to the table. First off, stop expecting people to be who they aren't. The second key point on this is stop expecting people to show up as you. We spend a lot of times, us improvers, we're always working on ourselves, trying to be the best version of who we're called to be. So we spend a lot of time thinking through and working on improving ourselves and trying to refine our character flaws and trying to get more efficient and more effective. And so that's great. And we know that we're working towards the most ideal version of who we are. So many times we tend to think the thing I'm aspiring to be is what everybody should aspire to be. My version of improvement should be everybody's version of improvement. And so we want people to show up as us. We think this is the way that I would do it, so they should do it this way. You guys have heard of the book, probably 5 Love Languages out there. And this is a great example of that, where the author talks about the things that make you feel loved are not necessarily the things that make other people feel loved and valued and appreciated. So you got to learn to speak their language. But the big failure we have is expecting people to feel loved, to feel honored, to feel appreciated, to feel recognized, to feel valued the exact same way we do. We want them to show up with the same mindset. But guys, if everybody was like me, it'd be a really bad place. If everybody was like you, it would be a bad place. Everybody has to be who they are. And so we can't expect them to show up as somebody they're not, especially if we're projecting our own selves on that, if we're expecting them to show up like us. Look, if you want to be an improver, that means you're someone who works on yourself, you grow yourself, your own understanding of truth, your own understanding of how to be an effective and healthy leader. And one of the biggest and most important steps you can take is adjusting your expectations of others, easing up on them a little bit, being more understanding, empathetic, gracious, and patient with how they show up, even if it's not the way that you would show up, and maybe not even the way you are expecting them to, but appreciating who they are. Now, there is still a place to make adjustments, and sometimes people have to operate outside of their normal comfort zone. So that's when you have to step into the expectation of calibrating that and communicating that. So you communicate what the expectations are so that you're on the same page, and when necessary, you calibrate those. And that's going to help you with your relationships, whether you're talking about in the living room or the boardroom, whether you're at home or at the office. These tools and tips will help you build stronger relationships. Don't make the mistakes that I've made so often, which is asking people to show up in a way that they're not and pretending that my way of doing things is the only way of doing things. Instead, put on that leadership cap and begin to put yourselves in the shoes of others, empathize with that, and that's going to make you a healthier leader. It'll grow your influence, your impact, and your income. Hey, improvers, you stay good, keep getting better. We'll see you on the next video.